The cruiser's siren wailed like a banshee in the dead of night, slicing through the humid Kansas air as if it had a personal grudge against the stars. Ethan slammed against the chain-link fence of the rest stop picnic area, his heart pounding wilder than the bass from Jake's old pickup truck still idling 50 yards away, its headlights cutting accusatory beams across the gravel. "Get your hands off me!" he snarled, twisting in the grip of the burly deputy whose badge glinted like a predator's tooth. But the words choked out half-formed, tasting like copper and regret. "You think this is a joke, kid? Making out like some kind of freak show in public?" The cop's voice was gravel and disdain, his partner's laugh a low rumble that echoed off the vending machines, empty witnesses to the unraveling. Ethan's wrist twisted sharp under the cuffs, the metal biting cold into skin still warm from Jake's touch, and in that frozen second, he saw it all flash. Jake's frozen stare from the truck, the taillights flaring red as he peeled out, leaving dust devils swirling in betrayal's wake. Blood trickled from Ethan's split lip where he'd bitten it, holding back a scream, and as they shoved him toward the cruiser, the weight of the Midwest night pressed down, heavy with unspoken secrets. His mother's voice on the last call, "Stay safe, baby. I'm right here." And the lie he'd told himself that love like theirs could outrun the badges. Ethan's world narrowed to the stink of stale coffee and vinyl seats in the back of the Dodge Charger. The partition between him and the deputies a scratched plexiglass veil that did nothing to muffle their murmurs. "Another one of these rainbow runaways," the driver grunted, his eyes flicking up to the rear view, catching Ethan's glare like it was a challenge. The kid, 18 last month, though the world still treated him like he was stealing breaths, clenched his fists behind his back, the cuffs chafing raw. Outside, the interstate blurred into black ribbons under sodium lamps, cornfields whispering secrets to the wind. He'd met Jake 3 months back at a dive bar on the edge of Wichita, the kind where the jukebox spun Johnny Cash covers, and the locals pretended not to notice the boys holding hands under scarred oak tables. Jake was 22, all easy grins and calloused hands from fixing transmissions at his uncle's garage. With tattoos snaking up his arms like rivers Ethan wanted to trace forever. "Your trouble," Jake had whispered that first night, lips brushing Ethan's ear over the clink of beer bottles, and Ethan had laughed, because yeah, he was trouble named after a dad who'd bailed when he was 10, trouble with a mom who sent postcards from DC instead of hugs. But that night at the rest stop, it was supposed to be their escape. School year's end, Ethan's backpack stuffed with stolen road maps and a mixtape Jake burned on his ancient laptop. Springsteen anthems for the open road, promises of California beaches where no one cared who you kissed. They'd pulled off I-70 around midnight, the truck's engine ticking cool under a canopy of oaks, and Jake had tugged him into the shadows, hands urgent, mouths meeting like they'd been starving. "I love you," Jake murmured against his neck. Words Ethan's heart had been chasing since he first knew what the ache in his chest meant. Then the lights, the siren, the cops materializing like ghosts from the fog, one barking orders, the other shining a flashlight that stripped them bare. "Step away from the vehicle. Hands where I can see 'em." Ethan had frozen, Jake's arms still around his waist, and in the beam's glare, he saw the deputies' faces twist. Not just authority, but something uglier, the kind of hate that simmered in small-town whispers about those types. Jake bolted first, keys jangling, truck roaring to life before Ethan could even process the abandonment. Left standing there, exposed, as the cuffs clicked home. The station loomed like a concrete bunker off Highway 54, fluorescent buzz welcoming them like an old enemy. They marched Ethan through double doors into a bullpen alive with radios crackling and coffee pots gurgling, the air thick with printer ink and unspoken judgments. "Name?" the desk sergeant barked, a woman with a bun tight as her scowl, fingers hovering over a keyboard yellowed by years. "Ethan Harper," he muttered, chin up despite the tremor in his voice. No last name from Mom's side, she'd kept her own, the one that opened doors in marble halls, though he'd never thrown it around. Not here, not in Eldridge, Kansas, where Harper just meant the quiet kid who sketched in the margins of his history notes. The one whose locker bore faded rainbows until the principal suggested a cleanup. "Harper, huh? Got ID?" The sergeant eyed him like he was smuggling contraband in his faded Levi's. Ethan nodded toward his back pocket, the one deputy fishing out his wallet with a smirk. As she typed, the room's chatter dipped, eyes sliding his way, curious, pitying, predatory. One older cop leaned over a partition, coffee mug paused mid-sip. What did the little fairy do this time? Solicit a trucker? Laughter rippled, low and mean, and Ethan's stomach twisted. Loitering and public indecency. The arresting deputy supplied, slapping a form down. Caught him with another boy, all handsy by the pumps. Practically begging for it. Begging? Ethan's voice cracked sharper than he meant, heat flooding his face. We were just. Save it for the judge, sweetheart. The sergeant didn't look up, but her lips thinned. They uncuffed him long enough to pat him down. Humiliating sweeps of hands that made his skin crawl, then led him to a holding cell, a 6x8 box with a bench bolted to cinderblock and a toilet that reeked of bleach and despair. The door clanged shut, lock engaging with finality, and Ethan slid down the wall, knees to chest, the cold seeping through his hoodie. Alone, finally, the dam broke. Tears hot and silent, tracking salt paths down his cheeks as he pulled his knees tighter. Jake's face haunted him. That frozen moment, the truck's taillights vanishing like a bad dream. Had he run to protect them both? Or was it fear? The same cowardice that kept Ethan from telling Mom the full truth about why he was really leaving town. I need space, he'd told her on their last call, voice steady as he lied. Just a road trip with a friend. She'd paused, that lawyer's silence heavy with unspoken worry, then said, Be careful, Ethan. Call if you need me. Always. Need her? God, he needed her now, like a lifeline in this fluorescent hell. But what could she do from 3 time zones away? Ellen Harper was Ellen Harper, the firebrand civil rights attorney who'd argued before the Supreme Court, the woman whose name made headlines in the New York Times for dismantling hate crime laws brick by brick. To the world, she was a titan, unyielding and untouchable. To Ethan, she was Mom, the one who'd hugged him through his first awkward coming out at 14, who'd driven him to pride parades in her sensible Prius, rainbow flag fluttering from the antenna like a battle standard. But she'd never know this part of him, the reckless love that burned hot and fast, the boy who'd risk everything for a taste of freedom. Or so he'd thought. Now, staring at the scuffed floor, he wondered if freedom was just another word for alone. The clock on the wall ticked past 2 a.m. when the cell door creaked open again. Phone call? The sergeant grunted, jerking her thumb down the hall. Ethan stood on numb legs, following her to a wall-mounted relic straight out of the 90s. Receiver greasy from 100 desperate hands. He punched in Mom's number, the one etched in his soul, and waited as it rang, once, twice, the line crackling like distant thunder. Hello! Her voice, sleep-rough but alert, wrapped around him like a blanket. Ethan? Baby, is that you? Mom! He whispered, throat closing. I'm in trouble. Tell me where you are. No hesitation, no questions, just that steel core he'd inherited, the one that said Harper Women and Sons didn't fold. He spilled it all in a rush. The rest stop, the cops, Jake's ghosting. Her end went silent, then, stay put. Don't say another word without a lawyer. I'm coming. You're in D.C., Mom. It's 1,000,000 miles. Nothing's 1,000,000 miles when it's you. A pause, papers rustling. She was already moving, he could picture it. Silk robe tossed aside, laptop firing up. Ethan, listen to me. Your full name is Ethan James Whitaker Harper. Say it if they push. And remember, you're not alone. Whitaker. The name she'd buried after Dad's scandal. The one tied to old money and older power. A senator grandfather she'd cut ties with for his bigotry. Ethan had never used it. Didn't want to. But now, hearing her invoke it like a shield, something shifted. Hope? Or just the illusion of it? As he hung up, the sergeant led him back, her eyes narrower now, like she'd overheard the magic words. Fancy name for a drifter, she muttered, locking him in. Ethan sank onto the bench, head against the wall, and closed his eyes. Outside, dawn crept over the prairie, painting the sky in hesitant pinks. Jake's mixtape played phantom in his mind. Thunder Road. Bruce's gravelly plea for escape. But escape to where? And with who? By morning, the station hummed with shift change, fresh faces trading war stories over donuts. Ethan's cellmate arrived around 8. A wiry guy in his 30s, arrested for a bar fight, tattoos blooming like accusations on his neck. "What are you in for, kid?" he asked, voice a smoker's rasp as he paced the narrow space. "Nothing," Ethan said, too quick. "Just wrong place." The man chuckled, low and knowing. "Ain't no wrong place for love these days. But cops, they still play God in towns like this." He stopped, eyeing Ethan with something like pity. "You got someone coming for you?" Ethan nodded, throat tight. "Yeah, my mom. Lucky. Mine's 6 feet under." The guy slumped onto the bench, the silence between them thick as fog. Ethan wanted to ask about regrets, about the loves left behind, but the words stuck. Instead, he thought of Jake, that first kiss in the garage, oil-slicked fingers in his hair, the world narrowing to just them. Was it real, or just a teenage fever dream? The buzzer sounded at noon, the sergeant appearing with a clipboard. Harper or Whitaker Harper, whatever. Bales posted. Some hotshot from Topeka's on her way. Her tone dripped acid, like the name soured her tongue. Ethan's pulse spiked as they uncuffed him, leading him to the lobby where fluorescent light warred with sunlight slanting through blinds. She was there, Ellen Harper, 5'4" of tailored wool and unshakable calm, briefcase in hand like a weapon. Her hair, silver-streaked brown, pulled into a no-nonsense chignon, eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses locking on him with a mother's ferocity masked as poise. "Ethan," she said, voice steady as she crossed the room, pulling him into a hug that smelled of lavender and resolve. The deputies hovered, awkward now, their bluster deflated. "Mrs. Harper," the sergeant started, but Mom cut her off with a look, the one that had felled judges in open court. "Attorney Harper, and we're leaving. Now." Papers shuffled, signatures scrawled, and just like that, Ethan was free, the charge reduced to a warning under her barrage of legalese. In the parking lot, her rental sedan purred to life, AC blasting cool relief against the July heat. "You okay?" she asked once they hit the highway, her hand on his knee, the gesture small but anchoring. He nodded, then shook his head, tears pricking again. "Jake, he just left me there." Her jaw tightened, knuckles white on the wheel. "We'll find him, but first talk to me. All of it." As the miles unspooled, Ethan did the love, the fear, the ache of being young and queer in a land that preached liberty but doled it out in scraps. Mom listened, tears glistening unshed, her silence a vault for his truths. By Hutchinson, the skyline shifting to golden fields, she pulled over at a diner, neon sign flickering, open 24/7. "2 coffees," she told the waitress, then turned to him. "Ethan, I should have been there more. DC's a beast, but you're my world. You're here now," he said, voice small. And in that booth, over bitter brew and pie that stuck in his throat, something mended. Not all, but enough. The betrayal stung, Jake's absence a hollow echo, but Mom's presence was a promise. Love didn't always run. Yet as they drove on, Ethan's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry. Had to. Meet me in Salina. Jay." Heart lurching, he showed Mom, her eyes narrowing. "Trap or truth?" "Truth," Ethan breathed, hope a fragile bird in his chest. Little did he know, the road ahead twisted darker, Jake's secrets unraveling like cheap thread, pulling them all into a storm neither could outrun. The Salina meetup spot was a ghost of a truck stop off I-135. Pumps rusted under a sky bruised purple by impending rain. Ellen parked the sedan in the lee of a semi, her face etched with lines Ethan hadn't noticed before, worry's fine print. "Stay in the car," she said, key fob clutched like a talisman. "If it's him, wave. If not, we go." Ethan nodded, but his pulse thrummed traitorously, fingers drumming the armrest to the rhythm of doubt. Jake's text had come in fits. Can't explain yet. Trust me. Trust? After the taillights? But love was a stubborn weed, rooting deep in cracked soil, and Ethan watered it anyway, peeking through the windshield as thunder grumbled distant threats. Minutes stretched, then headlights pierced the gloom. A familiar Ford pickup, mud-splattered and hesitant, pulling alongside. Jake emerged, hoodie zipped to his chin, eyes darting like a cornered fox. He spotted the sedan, froze, then approached slow, hands shoved deep in pockets. Ethan cracked the door, air thick with ozone and unsaid apologies. Ethan, Jake breathed, voice raw as he dropped to one knee by the running board, close enough to touch but not daring. God, I screwed up. You left? Ethan accused, the words a blade he couldn't sheathe. Rain began in spits, dotting the gravel like tears. They had me on the ground and you, scared shitless. Jake's gaze flicked to the sedan, where Mom's silhouette watched unblinking. Cops like that? They've got friends. My uncle warned me, said if I got mixed up with him, it'd cost the garage. But it wasn't just that. Bigger. Bigger? Ethan's laugh was bitter fog in the chill. What, like your ex showing up with a shotgun? Jake winced, rain slicking his hair. Worse. Remember that rally last month? The one you dragged me to in Wichita? Ethan nodded. The Pride March. Rainbows clashing with counter-protester signs. God hates fags, scrawled in red marker. Jake had held his hand through it, defiant. One of those guys? He's my cousin. Works dispatch for the county. He texted me right as the cops rolled up. Said he'd make sure they threw the book at us if I didn't run. The revelation landed like a sucker punch, stealing Ethan's breath. Family, the betrayal cut deepest when blood drew the knife. So you chose him? Over me? No. Jake lunged forward, gripping the doorframe, water sheeting off his sleeves. I chose us. Drove like hell to the station, but you were already out. Saw her car. Your mom? Holy shit. Ethan, why didn't you say? Say what? That my mom's some big shot lawyer. Ethan's voice rose, cracking on the edge of a sob. Mom's door opened then, her heels clicking purposeful on wet pavement, an umbrella blooming black against the downpour. Jake, is it? She extended a hand, steady as granite, though her eyes scanned him like evidence. Ellen Harper, let's talk inside before we all drown. The diner attached to the truck stop was a time capsule, checkered floors, naugahyde booths sagging under decades of trucker tales. They slid into a corner spot, steam from coffee mugs curling like question marks. Jake hunched, dripping, while Ethan sat rigid, torn between fury and the magnetic pull of those hazel eyes that had once been home. Start from the beginning, Mom said, notepad out, pen poised. No judgment, just facts, the lawyer's armor. Jake spilled. The garage teetering on bankruptcy. His uncle's homophobic rants. The cousin's threats laced with family loyalty's poison. He said if I stuck with Ethan, he'd frame me for theft, parts from the shop. Said it'd ruin us all. Ethan's chest ached, pieces slotting into a uglier picture. And the rest stop? You knew it was risky? Jake met his gaze, unflinching. Knew and went anyway, because you, Ethan, you're the first thing that felt right in this godforsaken town. His hand inched across the table, fingers brushing Ethan's knuckles, a spark in the storm. Mom watched, her expression softening fractionally, the protector weighing the boy before her. Rain lashed the windows as Jake continued, voice gaining steel. I ain't running anymore. Told my uncle to shove it this morning. Packed the truck. Figured we'd head west like you wanted. Hope flickered, treacherous, but Mom's pen tapped, a warning drum. Noble but reckless. That cousin? Sounds like obstruction, maybe coercion. We document everything. She slid her card across, embossed gold. Call if it escalates. And Jake. Hurt my son again, and no badge'll save you from me. The threat landed light, but Jake paled, nodding fervent. Won't happen, ma'am. Swear it. Outside, the deluge eased to mist as they parted. Jake to his truck, Ethan to the sedan. A chaste kiss stolen in the downpour, tasting of salt and second chances. Tomorrow, Jake called through the window. Denver. Together. Mom waited until they merged onto the interstate, wipers swishing rhythm. He loves you, she said finally, not a question. But love's a battlefield, Ethan. You ready for the war? He leaned against the glass, watching taillights blur. With you? Yeah. DC called her back by dawn. A deposition she couldn't dodge. But she rerouted them to a safe motel in Hayes, footing the bill with a credit card that raised no eyebrows. Take the day, she instructed, hugging him fierce in the lobby, her perfume lingering like a shield. Call every hour. And Ethan, you're braver than you know. Alone in the room, Ethan paced, phone clutched. Jake's texts a lifeline. Miss you already. Thinking of that night by the lake. Memories flooded. Summer's end. Water lapping at bare feet. Jake's laughter echoing as they skipped stones. Bodies entwining under a blanket of fireflies. Romance in the raw, unscripted, the kind that made the world's ugliness fade. But doubt gnawed. What if Jake's cousin followed through? What if the road west was just a prettier cage? Ethan flopped onto the bed, scrolling old photos. Selfies with Jake's arms slung casual, grins wide as the horizon. His own face stared back, eyes bright with a joy he'd almost lost. The knock came at dusk, urgent. Heart leaping, he yanked the door. Not Jake, but a stranger mid-40s, suit rumpled, badge glinting under the motel awning. Ethan Whitaker Harper? Yeah. Caution coiled tight. Special Agent Ruiz, FBI. The man flashed credentials, rain-damp but legit. Your mother's requested protection. Words out. That arrest? The stirring hornets. Your family's. Prominent. Prominent. The word hung, heavy with the Whitaker legacy Mom had shielded him from. The grandfather's Senate seat, scandals buried in 80s headlines, her own rise from their ashes. What kind of hornets? Ruiz's jaw ticked. Local PDs got ties to a militia group. Anti-LGBT rhetoric, the works. Your mom's filing complaints. But till then, you're with me. Ethan's world tilted. Protection. From what ghosts of small-town hate. He grabbed his pack, phone buzzing. Jake. On my way. Love you. Too late to warn. As Ruiz led him to an unmarked SUV, tires crunching gravel, Ethan glimpsed headlights approaching. Jake's truck, unwitting in the gathering dark. Wait! A shot cracked, sharp as lightning. Not thunder, but deliberate, shattering the rear window in a spray of glass. Ruiz shoved him down, radio barking codes, the night erupting in chaos. Jake's truck swerved, brakes screaming, and in the frenzy, Ethan saw it. A figure in the tree-lean, rifle glinting, the cousin's silhouette unmistakable. Betrayal's second act, bloodier this time. As sirens wailed closer, Ethan crawled toward the truck, glass biting palms, screaming Jake's name into the void. Love, it seemed, was a magnet for monsters, and his mother's secrets the key to slaying them. Sirens converged like vultures on roadkill, red and blue strobes painting the motel parking lot in fever dreams. Ethan pressed against the SUV's undercarriage, shards of glass winking like fallen stars, his breath ragged gasps in the acrid bite of gunpowder. Jake! The cry tore from him, raw-throated, as Agent Ruiz returned fire. Controlled bursts into the shadows where the shooter had melted like smoke. Stay down! Ruiz barked, his voice an anchor in the maelstrom, Glock steady in gloved hands. But Ethan wouldn't. Visions of Jake slumped over the wheel, spurring him forward on scraped knees. The truck's door hung ajar, engine ticking protest, rain pooling crimson on the dash. Jake lay half in, half out, shoulder blooming dark, eyes fluttering against pain. Ethan, run, he wheezed, hand groping blind for Ethan's face, fingers trembling cold. Blood slicked them, warm and accusatory, and Ethan clamped down, staunching the flow with his hoodie sleeve, tears mingling with the mess. Not without you, idiot. The words choked out, fierce through sobs, as paramedics swarmed. Ghosts in yellow turnout gear, barking vitals and 4 lines. They loaded Jake onto a backboard, Ethan clinging to his hand till gloved fingers pried loose. "I got you," he whispered, the promise of vow etched in terror. Ruiz hauled him up, cuffing him toward a second cruiser. "Protocol," he explained later, eyes hard but not unkind. "Shooter fled, but we got plates on a ghost vehicle." "Your cousin." Ethan nodded, numb, the world tunneling to the ambulance's taillights as it screamed toward Hayes Medical. Mom's call connected on the third ring, her voice a lifeline across static. "FBI briefed me. I'm chartering a jet. Be there in hours." "Hold on, baby." Hold on. To what? The fraying thread of normalcy. The boy he'd loved now fighting for breath in a sterile bay? Guilt gnawed, vicious. If he'd stayed in the car, if he'd told Jake about the agent sooner. Love's ledger always in red. The hospital waiting room was a purgatory of beige walls and vending machine hum, fluorescent eternity stretching as surgeons worked. Ruiz paced, phone glued to ear, coordinating with DC brass. Mom's strings pulled taut across states. "Militia ties confirmed," he muttered to Ethan over lukewarm coffee. "Your mom's testimony last year tore their funding apart. This is payback." Payback. The word soured on Ethan's tongue. Mom's work, suing on behalf of queer kids brutalized in Bible Belt backroads, dismantling conversion camps with evidence like shrapnel, had made her a target. And him? Collateral, the soft underbelly she shielded with silence. "Why didn't she tell me?" Ruiz shrugged, weary. "Parents think they're islands. Protects you till it doesn't." Dawn broke gray when they wheeled Jake out. Pale as the sheets, but alive, bullet grazing bone, no vitals lost. "Lucky," the doc said, clipboard heavy. Ethan collapsed into the bedside chair, Jake's hand lax in his, monitors beeping a fragile rhythm. "Wake up," he murmured, thumb tracing knuckles bruised from the wheel. Hours blurred. Naps in vinyl chairs, cafeteria slop choked down. Mom's arrival a whirlwind of hugs and hushed conferences with Ruiz. She looked smaller here, away from courtrooms, her power stripped to maternal ferocity. "We'll get him, Ethan. All of them." Jake stirred at noon, eyes cracking open to slits, confusion melting to relief at Ethan's face. "Thought you were a dream. Real as your dumb ass running last night." But the tease fell flat, Ethan's voice wobbling. They talked in whispers, Jake's cousin cornered by feds at a farmhouse dawn raid, spilling names like loose change. Militia cell, anti-gay manifestos, plans to send messages at pride events. "He ratted us out to them," Jake said, voice leaden. "Family first, always." Betrayals echo, but this time shared. A wound they could stitch together. Mom entered then, bearing flowers and frost. "Jake, your family now, like it or not." Her smile was tentative, the lawyer yielding to the mother, and Jake managed a weak grin, the room warming fractionally. Discharge came 2 days later, Jake propped on crutches, the three of them caravanning to a safe house in Topeka, FBI courtesy, chain link and cameras a gilded cage. Inside, it was domestic surreal. Mom on the couch with case files, Ethan and Jake in the kitchen, arguing over microwave burritos like old times. "You shot first?" Ethan teased, bumping hips, the contact electric, chaste but charged. "Nah, you did with those eyes." Jake's laugh was rusty, but genuine, pulling Ethan close for a forehead kiss that lingered, saying what words couldn't. "I'm here. Still." Nights were hardest, thunder rolling prairie storms as Ethan lay awake. Jake snores soft beside him. Mom's door cracked for reassurance. Doubt crept in whispers. Was this love, or just survival's glue? The betrayal lingered, Jake's initial flight a scar, but forgiveness was a choice, daily renewed in small acts. Coffee runs, shared playlists, hands intertwined under blankets during movie marathons Mom pretended not to notice. Climax brewed midweek, Ruiz bursting in with warrants and wiretaps, faces on a board like a war room. The cousin, militia head, even a crooked deputy from Ethan's arrest. "They planned the rest stop hit," Ruiz said, pinning photos. "Bait you out, make an example." Mom's eyes blazed. "Then we end it. Court, not cuffs." She rallied her network, ACLU allies, DOJ contacts, building a case like a fortress. But the militia struck first. A pipe bomb at her DC office. Anonymous but screaming intent. News alerts pinging Ethan's phone like shrapnel. Fear crystallized then. Mom's facade cracking in the safe house kitchen. Coffee mug trembling. "I thought I could protect you by keeping distance," she confessed, voice splintering. "After your grandfather, his hate, the threats when I came out. I buried it all." "Came out?" Ethan's world stuttered. "You're gay?" "Yes." The word hung, simple, profound. "Lived it quiet after you were born, your dad was by, we made it work till he didn't. But you? Seeing you fight. It's my fight too." The revelation unlocked floods. Hugs turning confessional, stories spilling of her own hidden loves. A partner lost to AIDS in the 90s, fueling her crusade. Ethan grieved the years unspoken, but in the sharing, bonds forged steel. Mother, son, lover. A triad against the storm. That night, as sirens wailed distant, another false alarm. Jake pulled Ethan onto the porch swing, crutches propped, stars pricking the ink-black sky. "Your mom's a badass," he murmured, arm around shoulders. "Like you. Like us." Ethan leaned in, lips brushing in the dark. Soft, reaffirming, romance's quiet rebellion. But dawn brought the call. Militia raid, live on feeds, feds storming a compound in the Flint Hills, arrests chaining like dominoes. The cousin surrendered without a shot, face gaunt in cuffs, but his eyes on Jake through the screen. Pleading, broken. "Family," he mouthed, the word a curse now. Justice's jaws closed, but victory tasted ash. Hate's roots ran deep, watered by fear. As headlines crowned Mom, the hammer of equality. Ethan saw the toll. Her exhaustion, Jake's nightmares, his own reflection haunted by what-ifs. Yet in the wreckage, something bloomed: resilience. The humanistic core that said humans, flawed and fierce, could choose better. "We rebuild," Mom said over breakfast, pancakes steaming. Together. Ethan believed her, hand in Jake's under the table. The future a highway unspooled. Bends unseen but navigable. Weeks blurred into autumn's gold. The safe house exchanged for a rented ranch outside Lawrence. Closer to KU, where Ethan enrolled late, majoring in social justice, Jake commuting to physical therapy in a borrowed Civic. Mom shuttled between. Her DC office rebuilt with donor bricks, each bearing names of queer kids she'd championed. The militia case sprawled into indictments, headlines fading as winter nipped heels. But the scars lingered, invisible tattoos. Ethan's days filled with lectures on civil rights icons, Baldwin, Milk, their words echoing his own quiet revolution. Evenings, he and Jake reclaimed the road in measured doses. Drives to Clinton Lake, picnics under sycamores shedding leaves like confessions. "Remember the mixtape?" Jake asked one crisp afternoon, cassette whirring in the dash. "Born to Run." Springsteen's Howl a Bomb. Every note. Ethan laced fingers over the gearshift, the touch grounding. Their love matured now, less wildfire, more hearth. Betrayal's ghost visited in dreams, Jake's taillights recurring, but waking to his steady breath dissolved it. Forgiveness a muscle strengthened daily. Mom's visits were anchors, dinners laced with her stories. Unvarnished now, the gay bar in 70s DC where she danced free, the lover's hand in hers at ACT UP marches. "I hid to protect you," she admitted over wine one night, Jake nursing a beer, the three of them a makeshift family. "But hiding's half a life." "No more," Ethan said, clinking glasses, the toast sealing packs unspoken. She met Sarah then, her partner of 6 months. A soft-spoken curator with laugh lines and a knack for pie. Sarah's arrival softened edges. Her presence a gentle insistence that love came in multitudes, patient and kind. Holiday lights twinkled early in Lawrence, campus alive with Jayhawk spirit. But Ethan's world narrowed to a letter arriving unannounced. Crayon scrawled from a kid in rural Nebraska, "Thanks for fighting. Mom says you're heroes." Attached, a news clip, Mom's op-ed in The Atlantic, From Rest Stops to Reckoning. Why queer kids deserve the road ahead. Tears pricked as he read aloud to Jake, curled on the dorm futon. rented off campus, freedom's first foothold. We're ripples, Jake murmured, chin on shoulder. You started it. We. The word encompassed them. The arrests echo, the shots scar, the court's gavel. Justice wasn't tidy. The cousin got 5 years probation, community service insensitivity training. His apology a stiff email Jake deleted unread. But Mercy's arc bent slow, and Ethan chose not to watch it snap. Climax's shadow lifted gradually, replaced by mundane miracles. Jake's first post-injury oil change, grease under nails of victory, Ethan's spoken-word piece at a campus open mic, verses on love's defiance earning snaps and a stranger's quiet, me too. Mom's wedding came in spring. Small, on a Virginia vineyard, Ethan best man. Jake tugging at his tie in the mirror. You clean up nice, Harper. Whitaker Harper. Ethan grinned, kissing him slow, the mirror fogging their future. Vows exchanged under dogwoods, Sarah's hand in Mom's. Rings glinting like promises kept. Ethan caught Jake's eye across the aisle, that hazel warmth of homecoming, and in the reception tent, as bluegrass twanged, they danced. Awkward, laughing bodies sinking to an old rhythm renewed. But humanism's heartbeat in the quiet after. A call from the Wichita garage, Uncle's voice gruff with regret, offering Jake Foreman if he returned. Family's messy, he grunted, but worth fixing. Jake waited nights, head on Ethan's lap, fingers toying with dog tags from a flea market find. Stay here? Or go back? Prove him wrong. Both, Ethan said, simple truth. We're not running anymore. Decision made, they packed summer's end. Jake to Kansas heartland, Ethan splitting semesters. Mom's guest room a way station. The drive south was a loop closed. Past that rest stop, now just asphalt and oaks, no ghosts clinging. They stopped anyway, gravel crunching under tires. The fence where it began a silent sentinel. Full circle, Jake said, leaning on the hood, sunset gilding his profile. Ethan joined him, arms around waist, chin on shoulder. Better this time. No kisses and shadows, just presence. The romance of survival, deep and unflashy. As stars wheeled overhead, Ethan thought of the kid's letter, the ripples spreading. A queer teen in some nowhere town, reading Mom's words, feeling less alone. Back in Lawrence, fall classes beckoned, but first, a road trip west, no mixtapes needed, just them. California, Jake teased, key in ignition. Wherever, Ethan replied, hand in his. As long as it's us. The engine purred to life, highway unspooling like fate's generous hand. Behind, the rest stop faded, a chapter closed, not erased but honored. Ahead, conflicts resolved in small graces. Love's persistence, family's reinvention. A nation's slow bend toward light. Mom texted as they crossed Colorado. Proud of you, both. Attached, a photo, her and Sarah, arms linked, rainbow pin on lapels. Ethan smiled, pocketing the phone, the world vast and kind for once. In the passenger seat, wind tousling hair, he closed his eyes to Springsteen's echo, heart full. Queer, alive, loved. In America's patchwork promise, it was enough. More than enough. Epilogue whispers. Years on, Ethan clerked for Mom's firm, Jake's garage a haven for out kids learning trades. Their home a bungalow with a porch swing creaking under starlit dances. Betrayals became backstory, conflicts cautionary tales at pride panels. And the rest stop, a historical marker now, plaque reading site of change, where one arrest sparked a movement. Humanity's arc, bent by hands like theirs, unyielding, tender, true.